It's Monday morning, December 16th. I'm out walking the dog. Can you see? And I'm re-recording the intro to this morning's TradeshowGuy Monday Morning Coffee. The reason for it being, I uploaded the version which I produced just a couple days ago, and it got flagged. Content, copyright. And I went, what did I do? It's my music. And then it dawned on me, oh yeah, I put like 5 seconds of ZZ Top's Sharp Dressed Man in there, and they flagged it. They couldn't put it up, not viewable. I went, oh. So I dropped that out, and I'm just redoing the intro. The rest of it will remain the same, but I thought, under fair copyright laws, you could use 10 seconds, 5 seconds of a creation like that as just kind of an editorial aside or whatever. But apparently that's not the case, at least not on YouTube. Anyway, we're walking and we're having fun. So yeah, a quick shout out to Billy Gibbons, whose birthday is today. It's a milestone, 70 years old. Yep, born December 16th, 1949. I've been a fan of ZZ Top for a long time. In fact, in my radio days, I met Billy, half a dozen times backstage at shows. I don't just kind of worked out that way. And I'll tell you, just quick little Billy Gibbons story. Well, actually, two of them. These are crazy. One of them was pretty mild. I was the first time I met him, I had just been sent a little promo item from Warner Brothers, which is the record label they had been on, were on, and there was a picture of Billy Gibbons with his band and Jimi Hendrix, because his earlier band, Moving Sidewalks, had opened for the Jimi Hendrix band for a number of shows, and he looked at that and says, "Man, that's cool. I haven't seen that for a long time." The other story, I had a girlfriend back then who was a very big Billy Gibbons fan. We got to see ZZ Top together one time, and after the show, there was no backstage. It was at the Memorial Coliseum in Portland, and we'd come up from Salem, and we were standing around the back because we wanted to say hi because I'd met him once or twice before. And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. It's just your fans. What do you do, right? Well, she just brazenly walked right up to the limousine, which was parked 100 feet away, kind of under a sort of a garage area, and knocked on the window of the limousine. The window comes down. She comes back in about 5 minutes and says, "We just got invited to have a drink with Billy over at the Benson." So we tootled over there, sat down, and I'm sitting next to Billy on one side, and there's a guy on the other side, and they're talking across me about music. And it finally dawned on me who this guy on my left was. It was Jack Ely, who was the lead singer of the Kingsmen, the Louie Louie band. Jack played with the band. I think he actually got kicked out of the band like shortly after they recorded that classic version of Louie Louie, Kingsmen, Louie Louie by the Kingsmen. So, but Billy, that was the song that inspired him to get into rock and roll back in the early 60s. He was a teenager then, and he heard Louie Louie, said, "I got to do this." And so at one point, Billy gets up and goes to the restroom, and Jack Ely turns to me and says, "I can't believe I'm sitting next to Billy Gibbons." And then Billy comes back, and Jack goes up to go to the restroom, and Billy leans to me and says, "I can't believe I'm sitting next to Jack Ely." And I'm thinking, dude, I'm sitting between both of you. Oh, and the other funny thing about that event was that he wouldn't let us buy drinks. He says, "Senator Smith from Texas is buying all the drinks." Okay, great. So that's my Billy Gibbons story. Happy 70th to Billy. So fun. That's the topic of this particular podcast / vlog. We have a lot of fun in life. Some people in our life are just fun to hang out with. Maybe because they're goofy, they might be interesting, they might look at things differently than you. But above all, when you're done hanging out with them, you think, man, that was just fun. We have fun together. So what is fun? Well, it's different to different people. So I'm going to explore a few things about fun here. Fun could be anything. It could be being offbeat and wacky. I have offbeat and wacky friends that when I get together, we just laugh because we're doing goofy things. Things I find fun on my own. I like to do sports things, like I like riding my bicycle, I like skiing, I like playing music, taking the dog for a walk, having a good conversation, spending time with my wife or with friends. The list goes on and on. I asked my wife what she thought was fun. First thing that she said was sitting in a room by myself, looking at the walls, listening to music. That would be fun because she never gets a chance to do that. She's the mom. We're all busy. She thought that would be really fun. The Oxford English Dictionary defines fun as lighthearted pleasure, enjoyment or amusement, boisterous joviality, or merrymaking entertainment. Wow, that covers a lot of ground. You know, you can have fun doing so many different things. What makes something fun is certainly elusive. People say, have fun, or that was fun, about things that are amusing and not to be taken seriously. I mean, people don't normally walk away from a funeral and say, boy, that was fun. I guess their tongue-in-cheek could say that, but they might walk away from a sporting event and say, man, that was fun. I suppose to someone with a morbid sense of humor going out of a funeral and saying to another friend who has that kind of humor, but that was fun, huh? Right? So anyway, do you have fun at work? I've had a lot of jobs, a lot of fun jobs. Most of them were in radio. They may have been challenging and at times stressful, like any job, but the job itself was creative and yes, fun. And I think you can put fun of some sort into pretty much any job if you set your mind to it. Also in the realm of fun is humor. And while humor is good generally, it literally took me till I was about 40 to realize that humor can be used negatively to hurt people. You can make fun of people. You use sarcasm, little digs at people that you may think, that's funny, but you don't realize you're actually hurting people. So humor can be a weapon. And once I learned that, it dawned on me. It kind of shaded how I looked at things. I was more thoughtful about how I used humor, about how I thought about fun. Because what I saw as fun or funny may not be funny to the person next to me. So you kind of have to temper yourself a little bit. There's that whole boundary thing and respecting other people. It's often said that children laugh more than adults. That may or may not be true. You've heard that statistic stated. Children laugh 300 times a day. Adults laugh 17 times a day. I looked it up. There's no study that says that. It started with some guy kind of talking at a forum. You just look it up. It's online. It's kind of an interesting story. It's kind of funny. But there's no research into that at all. But if you look at anecdotally, I think kids tend to laugh a little more at funny and dumb things, absurd things, than we do as adults. What about laughing? Well, there's the story of Norman Cousins. I thought of that when I was doing this research, writing this. About 25 years ago, 30 years ago, Norman Cousins, Saturday Review editor, I believe, in New York City, was diagnosed with an incurable and fatal spinal column illness. So he thought, well, it's fatal, it's incurable, let me try something. He tried alternative remedies, B17, Laetrile, large doses of vitamin C, and none of it really had any effect. So one day, against the advice of his doctors, he just walked out of the hospital, went to his apartment for a month, and did what he enjoyed most: watching comedy movies, reading comic books, reading humor stories, and reading jokes. So he did nothing but laugh and laugh each day for a month. He also wrote original jokes, which he would read aloud to himself and laugh like crazy. And every time he noticed that he laughed, his pain was eased. He went back to the hospital at the end of the month and checked in for a checkup, and to the surprise of the medical staff who examined him, they found no trace of the disease. He cured himself with laughter. They said, what'd you do? He says, well, you must have taken some medicine. And they said, no. He said, no, I actually went home and laughed for a month. I laughed myself to health. The man who cured himself through laughter. If I ever get an incurable disease, I'm going to stock up on all the funny movies that I can and just watch them and see what happens. So do we even have to laugh to be having fun, though? I mean, I can watch a great movie, maybe something that's sad, and still feel that it's fun to watch. It's satisfying because the story is good, the acting is good, the direction's good. So maybe in that case, fun is the wrong word, but you have enjoyed the time. I also think that what's funny to one person changes over that person's life. You know, when we were kids, we found lots of things goofy or funny. I suppose I developed my sense of humor from my parents because we didn't have a TV when I was a kid, not because they didn't believe in not having TVs or whatever. We just had no reception where we lived up on the mountain, so we had no TV. We had to entertain ourselves. My dad had a very dry sense of humor. One of his favorite jokes was, how can you tell a happy motorcycle rider? And we go, what? He goes, by the number of bugs on their teeth. So, you know. And I found out when I've shared that with people, lots of other dads at that time like that same joke. My mom laughed a lot. She still does at 91. But she's not necessarily a funny person, but her outlook on life allows her to laugh a lot. So what's your outlook on life? How do you look at things that happen to you? I mean, there are always corners you turn and you're faced with something unexpected. How do you react to those things? Do you just kind of get worked up when you're faced with a difficult situation, get stressed out, or you just shrug and try to work through it? Or do you just laugh because, hey, sometimes life is absurd and you just got to roll with it, right? Life can be absurd. A couple of final things. I was in high school. I love skiing. I started skiing very young, 7 or 8 years old. And during high school, the high school team would meet, and the high school ski team, when they would skid down the slope and the slalom course and put the course up, and they'd work on all this stuff. And at one point, someone said, "You should join the team. You're a good skier." I thought about it, and I said, "You know what? It would become a chore, and then it wouldn't be fun anymore." And so I declined. Same with music. I was in the drum section and was typically first chair, and occasionally we would be invited to competitions against other schools. And I did it a few times, but mostly I declined because I didn't have fun competing at music. I thought music was to be fun. And when you made it into a competition, to me, it became not fun. I didn't look at this from a competition standpoint. I suppose from a teaching standpoint, it made sense to get the students to do the competitions because it kind of sharpened them up a little bit, made them better, but I didn't feel that way. Last thing. A good friend of mine passed away a few years ago. I remember him for a lot of things, but one thing he said a lot was, having fun is good for you. And I agree. This week's trade show tip: ask yourself, what kind of fun can you have in your trade show booth that draws people in? Can you come up with some sort of activity that they'll engage with? If someone stops at your booth and has fun, you think they'll remember you better? I would think so. What can you do to have fun in your booth? Finally, this week's one good thing: I've never given a shout out to the Exhibitor Magazine. I should do that because it's a really good magazine for anyone in the exhibit industry, specifically at companies that do a fair amount of exhibiting. But certainly there's stuff in here for veteran exhibitors as well as beginning exhibitors, and I would highly recommend it for anyone who's involved in that: small company, medium company, large company. Check out Exhibitor Magazine. That's online, as well as a monthly magazine that shows up in your mailbox. That's all I got. Have fun. It's good for you. It's the Trade Show Guy Monday Morning Coffee for December 16th, 2019.